Is too much pressure a good or a bad thing? How's it going, everybody? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. I'm feeling especially good today. I've had a long, exhausting week, so I'm really glad I can sit down and talk about racing for a little while. Hello, what do you say? And today I want to kind of start what's going to be a little bit of a series of videos over the next couple weeks before the season starts, where I talk kind of about season predictions, and I kind of analyze a lot of the off-season storylines and how they could impact the actual NASCAR season once it starts. And so today I want to talk about pressure. Not air pressure, not water pressure, not under pressure by David Bowie, but pressure that we put on young, talented drivers with a lot of potential. I talked about this a little bit last week after Media Day, where we had a lot of the older drivers, specifically Kurt and Kyle Busch, talk a little bit about how they feel like we put a lot of pressure on these young drivers, and how a lot of these young drivers that are going to be starting in the Cup Series this year or have just started in the last year or two, how they have a lot of pressure behind them because they've kind of excelled very quickly in their careers, and they've kind of got a lot of pressure on them to perform quickly and to do well right off the bat. And a few of the names that really jump to mind when we talk about pressure, especially with young drivers, are a lot of the Hendrick Motorsports drivers. Chase Elliott's had a lot of pressure on him the last couple of years, not only because he's the son of Bill Elliott, one of the sport's greatest drivers, but he's also driving for a great team, and he's had success in other parts of his career, so a lot of people expected him to be great right off the bat, and he has been good, but he does not have a win yet, but he's still been good. And then this year we have both Alex Bowman and William Byron, a couple of young drivers who have really not proven themselves, really haven't had a chance to prove themselves yet in good equipment. They're both going to be in Hendrick Motorsports, taking over for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Casey Kane, two of the sport's most popular drivers. So Bowman and Byron, they've definitely got pressure as well. So those three drivers really stick out to me, but there's other young drivers as well. I'm sure Eric Jones is feeling some pressure stepping into the 20, a car that won championships with Tony Stewart and has won a bunch of races the last few years with Matt Kenseth. I mean, that's a big time ride that he's supposed to perform in. And anyway, I mean, you get it. I don't want to get too off topic. Earlier this week, I ran a poll on Twitter for you guys to vote and tell me which driver you thought was under the most pressure going into the 2018 season. And here were the results. Thanks to everyone who voted. It's not too surprising. I think I typically agree with most of these trends. I think Chase Elliott's definitely under a lot of pressure. Like I said, he came into the sport, he's in a good car, he's, the son of a famous driver that had a lot of success. Chase Elliott was expected to come to NASCAR into the Cup Series and be great. He's been good so far, and I think he's actually met most reasonable expectations. I think a lot of us put slightly unreasonable expectations on Chase Elliott. Like I said, he has not won a race yet. He's come close a few times and had things either not go his way or he's made some mistakes. But he's been consistent. What did he make it to the round of 12 in his rookie season? The round of 12, and then last year made it to the round of 8. And had he not had his issues with Denny Hamlin at Martinsville, likely Chase Elliott would have made it to Homestead and had a shot at the championship. But yeah, well, while he's already been under a pretty decent amount of pressure his first two seasons, I think 2018 he will be under the most pressure he has ever been in to this point. I mean, he's improved definitely from his first season to his second season. I think everyone expects him to improve again in his third season. But hey, when you make it to the round of 8 and almost make it to Homestead, there's really not much room to improve unless you do make it to Homestead. So I think Chase Elliott, for him this season, it's Final Four or bust. And I don't care who you are, Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick, that's a tough goal. I mean, that puts a lot of pressure on you if you have that goal at the beginning of the season. And I think where Chase Elliott and that team are at right now, that's got to be their goal. I would say a side goal is that he definitely needs to win at least one race this season. He cannot go a third straight winless season. I don't care how consistent you are. At some point, Chase Elliott's got to win a race. And I think it's going to happen this season. He came so close a couple times last year. I hope he learned from some of the things that happened, like at Dover when he let Kyle Busch beat him, or at Phoenix with Matt Kenseth, or even, the whole instance with Hamlin, which were really not his fault. I hope he's learned something from all that, and I hope he's able to take that and translate it into victories this next season, because I think he's got the equipment and I think he's definitely got the skill. He needs to get it done. So that's a lot of pressure to put on you, especially when you're in your early 20s and you've only raced in the Cup Series 3 years, not 2 years, I guess. He's going into his third season. That is a lot of pressure. So I definitely agree with you guys there. I'm a little surprised Alex Bowman got as many votes as he did. I mean, I guess it's because he's stepping into the 88 car, which was, has been Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car, the most popular driver in NASCAR. That's a big hole to fill if you're Alex Bowman. But if we're talking from a competition standpoint, I mean, no offense to Dale Jr., but the last 2 years have not been great as far as performance for that 88 team. So I don't have my expectations super high. I think Alex Bowman will be decent this year. I don't really expect him to make the playoffs. He might, and that would be really surprising, and I think that would be a successful season if he makes the playoffs, but I don't really expect him to. That's why I don't really think he's under that much pressure. I get it's the big shoes to fill. But nobody said that the next big popular driver in NASCAR had to drive the 88 car. I mean, why can't Kyle Larson be the next Dale Jr.? Why can't Darrell Wallace Jr.? Why can't any of these guys? It doesn't have to be the driver of the 88. You know, I don't think anyone's that loyal to the 88 car, at least not the way that people were loyal to the 24 when Jeff Gordon left. I don't think Junior, his popularity isn't as centered around a number. I don't think, when you think Dale Jr., you think the 8, you think the 88, you think the 3. You know, I don't think the 88 really means you have to be the most popular driver or the best driver. So I don't know if Alex Bowman's under that much pressure. Definitely some, but, you know, I don't know. I actually, of these 4 drivers, these are just 4 drivers I randomly selected and gave the options to. These are just drivers that I thought would be under a lot of pressure and I thought would be interesting to vote on. I'm surprised Jimmie Johnson got so few votes. I talked about this at the end of last season, but Jimmie Johnson's coming off one of his worst seasons with Hendrick Motorsports ever. I mean, he's a 7-time champion, arguably the best ever in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he still won 3 races last year, but the second half of the season was just not Jimmie Johnson-like. And so I tend to think there has to be a pretty good amount of pressure, at least that Jimmie Johnson, Chad Knaus are putting on themselves to, come back strong this year and at least make it to the round of 8 and win a few races and at least make some noise. Like Johnson, he made it to the round of 8 this last season, but really he got there by luck that other competitors had mistakes late in the late rounds. If other drivers hadn't had mistakes, then Johnson would not have made it to the round of 8. And once he was in the round of 8, Jimmie was never a contender, and that's just not what we're used to seeing from the 48 team. So I think Jimmie Johnson, other people maybe aren't putting the pressure on him, but I think he's putting a lot of pressure on himself to come back this year and have a shot at that 8th championship. Because Jimmie Johnson, somebody asked him recently about retirement, and he acted like he's still got he said something along the lines of he has at least 3 years left, which realistically I think he's right. I think 3, 4, 5 years down the road, Jimmie will probably be retiring. So he's got 3, 4, 5 more chances at that 8th championship. And believe me, Jimmie Johnson wants that 8th championship. He wants to go down in history, at least for the time being, as the all-time winningest or the most. He wants to go down in history as the Michael Jordan of NASCAR. He wants to go down in history, without argument, as the greatest ever. And if he gets that 8th championship to pass Richard Petty, to pass Dale Earnhardt Sr., he's going to have a heck of an argument about it. And now there's also Joey Logano on this list, who I put up there, and he got a third of most amount of votes. And Joey Logano, kind of like Jimmie Johnson, who's coming off such a bad year, Joey Logano's coming off his worst year since he joined Penske like 5 years ago. Since Logano joined Penske Racing, he's been a contender. 2014, 2015, 2016 especially, he was a championship contender for most of the season. So it just baffled me that he went from almost winning the title in 2016 to not even making the playoffs last year. Now, granted, part of that is because of NASCAR's a screwy playoff system. He was still like 12th or 13th in points, but still quite a step backwards. And it's hard to know where we need to put the blame for that. I don't think Joey Logano forgot how to drive a race car, and I don't think Todd Gordon or whoever, the rest of that team forgot how to set up race cars. I just think maybe Penske for a lot of the season, especially the earlier part of the season with Keselowski too, seemed a little bit further behind some of the bigger teams like JGR, or even behind guys like Chase Elliott, Jimmie Johnson at certain points, or Furniture Row with Truex. Penske just seemed a little behind. They seemed behind even Stewart-Haas Racing at times. We've become kind of accustomed the last couple of years to always assuming Penske's the best Ford team out there. I mean, Roush is nothing like they used to be. Penske's last year was probably not the best Ford team for most of the year, and was kind of different. We haven't really seen that in a while since Harvick was so good, since Kurt Busch won the 500. I think this year Penske will come back. I think Penske will be good again. I think both Keselowski, Logano, and Blaney all make the playoffs this year, and I think at least one of them probably makes it to Homestead. But anytime you put those expectations on yourself, there's going to be pressure with it. So that's why I think Joey Logano's under a decent amount of pressure, because he's still pretty young in his career, and I think he needs to prove that 2017 was a fluke, and that's not going to be the usual going forward. We've seen this from other young, talented drivers before, though. I mean, think about Casey Kane. He had a few years there, 2011, 2012, 2013, where he still was winning races, playoff contender, occasionally looked like he could even maybe sneak in there and be a championship contender. That's kind of what Joey Logano's been the last couple of years. But Casey Kane hit kind of a wall, say 2015, 2016, and that team had not performed, and now he's been demoted off Hendrick Motorsports. So Joey Logano, we hope 2017 was just a fluke and that he's going to step his game back up and that team's going to be a top 5, top 10 team once again. But if, like I've said, we've seen it before. Drivers like Joey Logano potentially having kind of their careers just suddenly decline. And so with that in the back of your head, obviously Logano's got to have some pressure on him. I've said the word pressure about a billion times in this video, but I think y'all get the point. I've said this a couple times already in the last couple episodes, but I think this year in NASCAR is the official beginning of a new era. This is a big new crop of drivers we have stepping into big time rides this year. A lot of them are young. A lot of them are going to be the faces of the sport for the next 15, 20 years. I think this is the official start. 2018 is the official start of whatever we're going to call this new era of NASCAR. We've had young drivers popping up in the last couple of years, but they have not had much success. And I think this is the first year we're going to finally, hopefully, see some of these young rookies, second-year driver, third-year drivers really start winning races and having success. I think this is the year we're finally going to start to see guys like Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, Larson, Blaney, push drivers like Johnson, Kyle Busch maybe, Harvick, Kurt Busch. They're going to try and push them a little bit, out of the spotlight for good, possibly. Because rookie drivers have had a rough go in the Cup Series the last 5-10 years. I mean, think about when was the last time a rookie won a race? I mean, discounting Chris Buescher's win in 2016 where, he won that race at Pocono, but it was rain shortened and he had no business winning it. So besides that race, the last time a rookie won a Cup Series race was all the way back in 2011, 7 years ago, when Trevor Bayne won the Daytona 500. I want to flash back 15, 20 years at the turn of the century when we kind of had what I would say was kind of the start of the previous era, was around the year 2000 when we had drivers like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Matt Kenseth, Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, Harvick were all coming into the series in the late 90s, early 2000s. And you look at back then, I mean, in the year 2000, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Matt Kenseth both won races that year as rookies. In 2001, Kevin Harvick won as a rookie. 2002, 2003, Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman, Jamie McMurray, and Greg Biffle all won races in their rookie seasons. But you look today, you look the last couple of years, Chase Elliott did not win in his rookie year. Jones did not win in his rookie year. Blaney didn't win in his rookie year. Neither did Larson. I don't mean to say that the previous generation of drivers who are all starting to retire now were better than the current generation. I'm not necessarily trying to say that. But I am just saying that maybe guys like Kyle Busch have more of a point when they talk about how they don't think these drivers deserve all the hype they're getting. Because like I said, Dale Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth, all those drivers I just named won races in their rookie seasons. Last time a rookie won a race that wasn't Chris Buescher was 7 years ago. So think of any driver who's come into the sport in the last 7 years and they did not win in their rookie seasons. And I know winning as a rookie is tough to do. Don't get me wrong. Competition in NASCAR these days is amazing. But it is an interesting difference between the last generation and this new generation. And I just wonder what kind of success we're going to see from these guys going forward. I hope the best for them. But anyways, that's all I have. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Which driver do you think is under the most pressure? Do you think it's going to help or hurt them? Do you think this new crop of young drivers that we've seen come into the sport the last 2 years, and especially this season, how do you think they're going to fare against the veterans? Do you think 2018 is going to be the year they start to outdo them? Or do you think it's going to take a couple more years before we really get rid of Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, all those older drivers? Let me know what you guys think. I think Johnson, I think Hamlin, I think they all have at least a couple more years left where they're going to be kicking butt. But I hope we see Chase Elliott, I hope we see William Byron, Eric Jones, I hope we see Suarez, Larson continues to be good. I hope we see those drivers have success this year. I think this is the year that the changing of the guard officially happens. That's all I have to talk about. I'll be back probably this weekend, maybe early next week with a new episode talking about another aspect of going into the NASCAR season. Keep an eye out on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Dex Racing for more polls so you can be a part of the stuff that I put on this episode. But yeah, anyway, share the show with the NASCAR fans in your life. If you enjoy it, maybe they'll enjoy it, and that'll make me happy. I like seeing new people in the comments and new people watching. It really makes me feel good when I see that. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you again very, very soon. Have a good one.